Okay, let's get on with the tutorial here for my little 8.5 by 11 page configuration album. And I'm calling it that because of the way that I'm going to make the pages that actually insert into the album. I had a request because a lot of people can't get a hold of 12 by 12 paper, and 8.5 by 11 paper was easier for them to get. So I went ahead, and the first one that I did because of this request was my Bee House mini album that I made with some graduated page widths, and I'll put a link for that below so you can go back and take a look. All those pages were made with 8.5 by 11 papers. This one, the pages are going to be, again, 8.5 by 11. They're just going to be cut a little bit different, and all the pages will be the same width. So we're going to make an album with that. So kind of a second part to that request that was asked of me. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The other thing is that I'm going to do something a little bit different with wrapping this album, with doing the spine. And I want to put a disclaimer here right now that I do not recommend this for a giant album that's going to have very heavy pages and lots of elements and everything like that. This album is going to be fairly simple, and the pages will be fairly light. So I don't recommend this method for a larger album that you're going to put a lot of embellishments on and have big heavy pages. These are going to be small pages, 4.5 by 6.5. This is a small album. So this method I thought was kind of fun to do, and I wanted to play with the design, so I'm going to show it to you. And let's just go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to need is our chipboard. Now you're going to need two pieces that are 5 by 6 3/4. That's going to be for the front and back covers. And then you'll need one piece that's 3 by 6 3/4, and that'll be for the spine. Now what we're going to do is we're going to wrap these all the same. So we're going to wrap them like you were doing the lay flat method, except you're going to wrap the spine piece as well. So they'll all be like this when we get done. I will put the lay flat method in the description below, so that if you choose not to do this method, you can go ahead and use that method if you're not familiar with it. But we're going to do something just a wee bit different with this today. So again, two pieces of chipboard, 5 by 6 3/4. One piece for the spine that's 3 by 6 3/4. And then this cardstock to cover that. We didn't talk about that yet. So you'll need two pieces that are 7 by 8 3/4, and those will be for the front and back covers. You'll need one piece that's 5 by 8 3/4. That will be to wrap the spine. And again, you're going to do the spine just like you're going to do the cover. And then you'll need one piece that's 6 by 6 3/4. And that's what this piece is right here. This is going to actually be kind of the binding piece that puts this all together. This is 6 by 6 3/4. It will be the height of your album, and then it's going to be wide enough to where there was 1.5 inches on either side of the spine piece. Okay, and then what I wanted to do was have kind of a decorative edge, and so I took my favorite punch, if you can see, and I punched the edge. Now, one of the things I was going to tell you is that I shared this a while ago, but I'll share this again. So like all of my border punches, I love them to pieces, but sometimes, you know, you can't, it's hard to, you know, figure out where to start and stop when you're going to punch like a whole edge of a paper. So what I do with all of my punches whenever I get one is I take a 12-inch strip, and then I go ahead and just from the very starting point of the punch on the edge here, so I'll punch it, and I'll punch it all the way across. And what this does is it kind of gives me a ruler or kind of a measurement so that I can lay it on a piece of paper and kind of see where I want to start punching my papers. So if I put it like this, as I lined it up, it was pretty exact with the big scallops on these. So if you wanted to start your paper with a half a scallop on the edge, you could do that. But anyways, what this does is I can just kind of line it up on the paper that I want to punch and see kind of where exactly I want to start, so that when I put my paper in my punch, I know where to start it. Okay, I hope that kind of clears up how I do that. I've shared this before in another tutorial, and I got to tell you, you guys have seen this 100 times because this is like my favorite go-to punch. I just love the scallop, but I also love that it has the little scallop in between too, so it's really cute. So I did that. And then before I did that punch, I put score tape on the edge, and I punched right through the score tape because this is going to be a little bit trickier to glue on the project when we're putting this together. So you don't necessarily on this one because the punch isn't that fancy, but on a lot of other punches that have a lot of different pieces that'll come out, this will be a little more important to put some score tape on the edge and then just punch through that. And then that way you can use that to help adhere it to your album. Okay, so let's put this guy together. I've got some pieces here. We're gonna have to do this kind of in some steps here. So let me get my scoreboard. And actually, no, I don't need my scoreboard. Sorry. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So what you're going to do is the first thing you're going to do is get your chipboard that you wrap for your spine. Okay. And then I'm going to adhere it to the back side of this attachment piece with the covered side up. So this attachment piece will cover that piece, so you don't have to cover that. And then this will be the inside of your book. You can leave this as is, or you can put patterned paper over the top of it, but either way, you'll have the covered side up, and you're going to adhere the wrong side of that to the wrong side of this piece. So if you're going to punch before you do that, and then grab your centering ruler, and we'll glue everything down. So I'm just going to put this down and center it up right about like so, and then grab my glue and glue it down. And then I'm using a the same color. You don't have to use the same color if you don't want to do the attachment and your spine. I'm just doing that this time. I did do a practice album that you've already seen in the walkthrough that I'm doing, that I did use papers from Country Craft Creations. I used some authentic papers for that, and I used a different color cardstock for that, and it turned out really super cute. So it's just a matter of preference. So I'm going to lay this down, maybe if I can keep my ruler in the right spot. And it's going to lay down, because this is 3 inches wide, at about the 1.5 inch mark here at the bottom. All right, so I'm just trying to keep it as centered as absolutely possible. And then glue that down. That out of the way for a second. And that does appear to be about centered there. Okay, so I'm just pressing that down. I can get rid of this for just a second. All right, so it's going to go edge to edge. It's supposed to go right to the edge of this attachment piece. Okay, it's the same height. All right, so wiping up the extra glue, and then I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of fold it a little bit. Okay, don't have to go too crazy with the burnishing at this point. So what you're going to do, now here's what's different. So we're going to next cover our chipboard with some pattern paper. So you have to do that next. So I'm choosing to have this black check as my front and back covers. Before we do that, we're going to add our seam binding so that we don't have any issues with that. So let's grab some score tape here, and again, grabbing our centering ruler, finding the center, and adding, let's see, so it's about at, so let's see, 3 3/8 would be about the center. So I'm going to put a little bit of score tape there, and then I'm using this really pretty seam binding that I got in the design team package from Country Craft Creations. And I'm just going to, if I can get that piece flat, I did take it and wet it down and then crinkle it and make it nice and crinkly. I like that look. It's really pretty. And put that right down there in the middle, and then we will take our paper and glue that down on the top. All right. And I cut my papers 1/8 of an inch smaller than the piece that it's covering. for my pattern papers, that is. Okay. Okay, so front cover done. We'll do the same process for the back cover. So again, lining it up at about 3 3/8, and then grab your score tape. A little bit of score tape there. And your seam binding, and I don't know, I can't remember if I mentioned this, cut it at 12 inches for each side. And that should give you plenty to tie a bow. All right, and then cover with your pattern paper. Now, some of the decorating, and we'll go through this as I do the pages, some of the decorating you have to do as far as putting down pattern paper first, and some of it you don't, but we'll go through all that as we go through the pages. This album will have 5 pages, and the cool part of the way that I designed this album is that they're all scored the same way, exactly the same way, all 5 pages. It's just a matter of 3 of them we will make a cut in one direction, and 3 of them will make a cut in another direction. And then the way you fold them, you're going to get 5 different looks, which is really amazing. I love doing this. Okay, so front cover and back cover are done. So we are going to glue these to our binding here. Okay, so what we're going to end up with is a book that'll have the spine, and then you'll have a nice edge over your pattern paper here that wraps around to the front. Okay, so but to do that, I'm going to use my spacer. This spacer is about 1/8 of an inch wide, and we're going to use that to make sure that we don't get our cover too close to our spine, because then the book won't close properly. So you have to have a little bit of width for that. So we're going to just go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take this score tape off here, and then I'm going to add my glue, and I'm going to just make sure not to get it too close to the spine here. Give it a little bit of room. Okay. And then I'm going to use this as a spacer, as a guide. And then I'm going to lay this down right at the edge. And then take that out, and then you should have the perfect 1/8 inch space between your spine and your cover. Okay, so just making sure it sticks, and then turn it over, making sure that we don't have glue seeping in the edges, because that'll glue the pieces together, and you don't want to do that. So, okay, so let's turn it around. We'll do the other side. Same method. We'll take the score tape off, and that'll help keep your scallops down, and you won't have to worry about that. And then we're going to put our glue, and not quite to the 1/8 inch mark, because we don't want it seeping in the middle, if we can at all help it. And then using your guide here, this spacer is amazing. If you guys haven't got the spacer yet from Country Craft Creations, you need to get it. This thing is amazing for making covers, and also for doing things like this where you need to have that guide. It's just a multi-purpose tool. I'm telling you, I love it. Just love it. So let's do that. See how cute this is going to look. It's going to be absolutely adorable. All right, so this binding will lay flat, and then when you close it, since you have that 1/8 inch space, you're going to have plenty of room to be able to close your album. Okay, so that's our cover is pretty much done. Now you can cover this any way you want. I've made an element, and let me show you what I'm going to do with it. I made an element that I'm going to put as the spine decoration. So I took a piece of scrap paper that was left over, and it was actually 2 pieces. I just glued them together, and then I made a rosette with 1/4 inch scoring, and it is, let's see, it is 2 1/4 inches wide. So I want to say I cut this at about you know, 1-inch wide strips when I made the rosette, but you know, it doesn't always go completely to the center. So it's about about 2¼ inches wide when it all is said and done. And then this is one of the cut-aparts that I used my punch, a scallop punch, because it kind of ties into that, and punched out that little ghost, glued that on the top, and then 2 more little strips to make the ribbon. And that's going to be my spine piece. So we'll put that on later though, because I want to make sure it's flat, so when we make our album, you know, it won't be in the way. Okay, so then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn this over, and we're going to add some elements so that we can have a waterfall on the front and back. So for these, let's see, we're going to need a couple sets of magnets, and we are going to need a couple pieces of paper. And I didn't write this down for you on a sticky note, so we'll go ahead and measure this. So this is going to be 1½ inches wide by 4¾ and then what you're going to do is put it in your scoreboard, and you're going to score at 1/2 inch to make a tab. We'll need 2 of those, just like so. Okay, then what we're going to do is glue them right to the bottom of the page. And we're going to center them on the page. So with my ruler here, the covers, I should say, are 5 inches, so 2½ on either side. This will go at about 3/4 here, right at the bottom edge of your page. Okay, so we'll need 2 of those. And I rounded the corners on the tops. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can do all kinds of stuff with it, whatever you want to do. Totally up to you. But this time, I got my corner rounder out and I decided to use it. All right, then the next thing we'll do is we're going to cover the inside covers with the pattern paper. All right, so we're going to try that again. So I didn't trim it properly for the top and the bottom. So there you go. All right, so we got that. All right, so both sides need to have pattern paper on first. So we'll go ahead and put this one on as well. And then we're going to do our waterfall, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to set our magnet, because it's going to be a little bit different, because I want to keep the integrity of the pictures that are going to be on the top. So I'll do that like so. I love the color of this purple. It is so pretty. All right. All right, so inside cover, outside cover is done. So let's put this to the side for a second. Let's work on our waterfalls. So our waterfalls, I'm going to do my stacked waterfalls like I have a lot of times in the past. So they will need 2 pieces, so 1 for each side, that are 4¼ by 10½, 2 that are 4¼ by 9½, and then 2 that are 4¼ by 4¾ So this is going to be a odd numbered page waterfall. So these are going to be a little bit different than you're used to me seeing or me showing. So hang tight with me for that. And then here's where I wrote down the closures. So they're 4¾ by 1½. Okay, so you'll need 2 of those. And so I already kind of created one, and I used one of the pieces that is 4x4 from the pattern collection. I trimmed it down a little bit, and I put it on some antique gray paper from Country Craft Creations. That's going to be the cover of my album. And then my idea is that I'm going to have a photomat on the bottom side, leave the top side black, and then I'm going to put, you know, some pattern paper in between. But I used antique gray paper, artisan cardstock from Country Craft Creations, and that's what I'm going to line the rest of the pages with. All right, so before we do this, we're going to have to, before we do that part, let's go ahead and put our waterfall on our page. like this. I'm going to show you that. And then we'll make the waterfall and then we'll set the magnets. How's that sound? So when you make the waterfall, it's an odd number. You're going to have this rectangle spine here, and we're just going to put glue on that rectangle spine only. You're going to leave the back part without glue so that you can use that for an additional photo mat opportunity. And then you're just going to center this on the inside cover, right about like that, and then press that down, and then that's how you're going to, you know, attach your waterfall. Okay, so then let's go through making one, and then I'll show you about setting the magnets. Okay, all right, so to make the waterfall, again, you're going to need those pieces, and when you get the pieces, you're going to put each of them in your scoreboard, and you're going to score them at 4 1/4 on each side. Okay, so this one is the 10 1/2, score it at 4 1/4, put it back after you turn it, score it at 4 1/4. I hope that makes sense. Boy, I am tongue-tied today. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get this done. I've got so much to do. Okay, so then take your 9 1/2 piece, put it in your scoreboard, score it at 4 1/4, turn it, and score at 4 1/4. And then the last piece you're going to need is the piece that's 4 1/4 by 4 3/4. You can put this in your scoreboard. What I did was I put it in just to keep it all simple and score it at 4 1/4. That way, one of the things I like to do is, so sometimes if you're off by just like even a millimeter when you're cutting your paper, it can make your pages wonky. So if I'm looking for, which is what I'm doing here, a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 paper, then I'll just keep going at 4 1/4. And if this is not quite a half, it doesn't matter because it'll be kind of the binding piece, but you want your pages to be kind of symmetrical. So sometimes that's one of the reasons why we score and then we turn and we score again, just to make sure that we have the uniformity of our pages. So, oh, I still need my scoreboard. Okay, so then you're going to take your scoreboard, you're going to take your pieces here, and I'm going to fold the pieces, burnish them. And this is how you can do an odd number page for your waterfalls, which is really kind of cool. And I've done a tutorial on stacked waterfalls that's kind of comprehensive, and I'll put a link below to that as well. So then lay your piece on your scoreboard, and I'm using this because I want the edge of it to kind of help me keep it nice and tidy. And then I'm going to take my next largest piece, which is the 9 1/2 inch long piece, and I'm going to put glue on that little spine binding piece. I'm going to set this in my scoreboard. Now the score should line up at 4 1/4 here. So I'm going to line this up because it will have a 1/2 inch gusset at 4 3/4. So the edge of my next piece there, and I'm going to lay that down and burnish that down. Make sure that you don't have glue seeping out because you don't want your pages to glue together. All right. And then grab the next piece with your glue. Put your glue on your tab. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to open that up. And then I'm going to line up the edge of this with the score here. Not quite in the score, obviously, because we don't want it to, we want it to fold nice. And I'm just going to lay that down. And then what that will do is that will put the page right in between the scores of our 9 1/2 inch piece. So you'll have that middle piece there. Okay, so then once you get that all done, we'll fold our pages, make sure they're nice and neat, make sure our edges are nice and straight. And if they're not, you can play with them, and then you can also put them in your scoreboard if your edges aren't quite straight, and you can, or not your scoreboard, your cutter, and you can trim them as well. So I think what I'm going to do, make sure that one's nice, and then I'm going to do that because one side, there's just one that's a little bit off. So I'm just going to put that in my trimmer, and I'm going to trim it super quick. Just take just a little teeny tiny hair off of it just to make sure that it's nice and square. There we go. I just want it nice and square. Okay, so then we have our piece. So then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, and we're going to glue it down right in the middle of our cover. So we'll have two 10-page waterfalls, one on each inside cover. Okay, so again, I'm centering and I'm eyeballing this. All right. So then our waterfall is complete. Now, this is the next thing that we're going to do. We're going to put the tab to close our waterfalls under the first page because I want the first page to show. I don't want my tab to be over my pretty little witches. So what we're going to do is, and then I'm also going to keep this page blank. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my set of magnets. I'm going to put one magnet like here, and then I'm going to close it. So I'm not going to glue it down yet because I just want to show you. So I'm putting it down. Let me grab this so you can see it better. So here's the tab. All right, I'm going to put that down, making sure it's down a little bit from the edge so that when we put our paper on, it'll cover it. I'm going to put that over, and then this one will go like right about there. All right, then we're going to take our papers, we'll glue that right over the top of it, and then that's how we're going to set our magnets. Okay, so let's start by putting this out of the way. Set my magnet like so. So right in the middle of that, making sure I'm down from the edge a pretty good way so I don't have any issues with that. And then I'm going to put some tape over this. Like so. And then I'm going to grab a piece of spare and my circle. Let's see if this works. Okay, so then I'm going to grab my, make sure that's stuck down really good. Grab my little piece of circle. That should work out just fine. And then we will grab our pattern paper to cover. Okay, so I'm just going to glue that over the top of the whole thing. Okay. All right, so I'm doing the piece of tape and I'm doing the circle because I'm trying to camouflage the bump of the magnet. It kind of makes me a little crazy to see it, and I'm trying to protect, you know, my paper and everything. So that just kind of hides it just a little bit more. And the magnet is going to be right on the other side of that piece of paper. So it's not going to, you know, impede the you know, magnet's strength at all. So I'm just making sure that's kind of around my magnet. It's glued down. We'll do the other side really quick. We don't need to do anything with this side except for put the pattern paper on. Like so. Okay, and you're going to do this to both sides. I'm not going to show you the other side. I'll do that off camera so I don't waste time. But there's that. And then when you close this page, then we're going to have to put our magnet right there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and grab another piece of tape so I can make it stick while we're fussing with it. Okay. And let's see here. There. The magnet will just lay right there where it's supposed to be. I'll take that off. I'm just going to put one more piece over top of it just for giggles, but I'm not going to do any extra circle of cardstock because the cover already has an extra piece of cardstock on it. It's not just patterned paper that I'm putting over it. So that's when I do that. If there's going to be just patterned paper, you know, laying over the top of the magnet, that's when I've been starting to do that, and it's been working pretty good. All right, and then I'm just going to center my little witchy poos over that and raise it up, and I'm using my fingers just to help make sure the glue is working. And there you go. So then we have our closure done, but we're not going to impede my girls at all. And then you have room for photo here, and then we're going to put photo mats, excuse me, on each of the other pages. So when you close it, it'll look like that. So it'll be really pretty. Okay, so I'm not going to do this side with you on camera. Again, I will go ahead and do that off camera. I'm going to tuck those in there so that I don't lose them. And let me put these away, and we'll get to the pages. So the pages are really cool. You need 5 pieces of paper that are 8.5 by 11. Now I'm calling them A pages and B pages, and we're going to make 3 A pages and we're going to make 3 B pages, okay? But they're scored completely the same. So let's start with the A pages. These pages will be pages 1, 3, and 5, okay? So again, you just start with an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and you're going to grab your scoreboard, and we're going to put it in our scoreboard, and we're going to score with the 8.5 at the top. We're going to score at 1/2, at 3/4, and at 5 1/4. So 1/2, 3/4, 5 1/4, and then turn it, and then score at 6 1/2. You're going to do that for all 5 pages, okay? All 5 pages scored the same. The only difference between the 2 pages, like page A, we're going to do 3 of these, where we're going to cut this corner out, and then we're going to make a slit here on this score line here between this rectangle here and this rectangle here, okay? So what you're going to do is grab your scissors. We're going to cut out the 1/2 inch score and the 3/4 inch score from this side, from the bottom side. We're going to go up to the score that we did at 6 1/2, and we're going to just cut that off, and cut it off straight. Do not miter, okay? I'm going to cut that piece out, so that's like that. And then you're going to cut this score out. Now I cut not just right in the middle of the score. I'm cutting the score actually out. So you're going to cut out kind of a sliver of cardstock, and that's going to help with the turning and everything. So I'm trying really hard because the lighting is such that I have to turn the paper a certain way just so I can see it well. And we're just going to cut just like a little sliver out. It's not very much, but just try to cut the score of that out, okay? So we have 3 of these. These are page A. And then page B, we're going to do the exact same scoring, okay? So at 1/2, 3/4, and 5 1/4, and you're going to turn it, and you're going to score at 6 1/2. So we're doing the same exact thing. But the next thing we're going to do here, after we cut this bottom part out, we're going to cut the score here. That's all. That's the only difference that we're going to do for 2 pages, okay? These will be pages 2 and 4. So again, we're going to cut out this page here, or this page, that score there. So cut out the 1/2 and the 1/4, cut it straight, do not miter, and then we're going to cut out this bottom score. And again, I'm going to just cut on either side of that score just a wee bit so that we can take out just a teeny tiny sliver. All right, and then it's just a matter of how we fold this, and if we glue it or not, how we're going to make different looks with this same score. So we're going to make a lot of different looks, okay? So 2 of the page B, where the cut is at the bottom, and 3 of page A where the cut is at the side. All right, so let's get rid of our scoreboard here, and let's start with page 1. So I'm gonna put those to the side, and let me get my notes together because I really don't want to steer you wrong on this one. Alrighty, and next thing I'm going to do, let's see. Okay, page 1, what we're going to do, first thing is on all of our pages, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold and burnish our binding pieces. So the 1/2 inch tab here is the actual binding piece. It's going to bind to our book, and then the 1/4 inch piece here is kind of a give space, so that'll help us with turning our pages. All right, so we're going to do that, and then what we're going to do is this top flap will fold to the front, and that is going to be an actual flap. All right, and then we're going to like turn our page over, and then what we're going to do is fold this flap up, and we're going to glue that down so it's going to create a pocket right here, and then we're going to have this flap that will fold over, and we'll burnish that down. And then this flap here is going to turn into a pocket right here. So there's a couple things that we need to do first. Now this page here, we don't really have to do anything to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put that paper here, I'm going to put this paper here, and then this paper here. So it's going to give us a nice little flap, and then we're going to have a photo mat opportunity here. So we don't have to really paper this part first. But we are going to have to do some work on page 2. So on page 2, we'll flip this over. So the flap's going to go to the front. This is page, like the front of page 1. Okay, here's the back of that. I'm calling it page 2. So we're going to need to put pattern paper on here first. So I cut out this really nice paper here, and I'm just going to glue that down. Like so. I love those pumpkins. Oh my gosh, I love those pumpkins. And then what we're going to do is this pocket here is just going to, since it has a bottom here, we're just going to glue up this side, so it's going to have kind of an opening here, which will help get tags in and out. So we're just going to leave that open and just glue this one side here. And I'm just going to fold that up, and that's why you have to put the pattern paper on first, because we don't have like any tabs or anything to make the pockets. All of the pockets are going to be kind of adhered. Then I will need to put a piece of pattern paper here, because when we glue that pocket down, I'm going to want to cover that up. So I did get, and this is just a scrap. So this is the other thing about this album, that some of these pages, I'm trying to conserve paper, so I'm using some scraps. And since there aren't really any tabs to cover up, I'm getting away with using scraps you know, to make like the top edges of my pockets, because nobody's going to see like the insides of the pockets, number one. And number two, I'm not going to have any like 1/2-inch tabs folded everywhere where I need to, you know, kind of cover them up so that tags don't get caught up in them when you close the album. So then on the flap, I'm just going to put glue on the top and the bottom, and I'm going to glue that down like so. And then what this is going to do is give us a nice pocket here, okay? And then it will give us also, excuse me, a pocket like right here to put little tags. And then I'm going to put the photo mat right there. So let's just go ahead and do that while I have it. On the pages that we do need to lay paper, I will go ahead and do that on camera, but the pages that you can do later, I'm not going to. You'll see that. You will have already seen that in the walkthrough. And boy, am I tongue-tied today. I am so sorry about that. Okay, so there is our first page. So now we have a really nice photo mat opportunity here. We have a pocket, and we have a pocket here, and on the front there will be a flap. We're going to have photo mats here. Okay, so that's page 1. Page 2 is going to be a B page. And this is a fun page. So again, just with the matter of folding. So this is a B page. So you want the paper that's cut at the bottom. And what we're going to do is fold our binding. Okay. All right, I'm turning it to the front. This page is going to be a flap, so no pocket. So this page will just, the front of this page will just fold down like that and give us a nice little opportunity for photos. Then we're going to turn this over. This page will fold in like that. And then what it's going to do is, when we open it up, we're going to put this page right here and fold it up to the inside. Now this is one of the reasons why you want to kind of cut that score out, because this will help it turn because it's on the inside of that fold. Okay, so that's why I'm saying really try to cut that sliver out of your pieces. So this page here we don't need to cover immediately. So all you're going to basically do, let's go through this again, is we're going to fold this one up. This one will fold up towards the back side, okay, so like that, and then it's going to fold to the inside. And then on this one here, what I had intended on doing was creating a tag shape on this. So I'm just going to take my tag punch here, and I'm just going to make my tag shape. All right, so when we have this page, if I don't throw it across the desk, this will fold down like that with lots of opportunity for pictures. When you turn your page, you'll have a flap, but then you'll also have another flap that folds down, and that will be a tag spot. Okay, so that's that page, and basically that's all we have to do with that one. You can cover that later. So page 3 is going to be another A page. So that page will be the page that has the side opening right here. And what we're going to do with this one, after we fold our binding, see, this is so easy, and it's just a matter of like 2 different cuts and how you fold them. And I just love figuring this stuff out. It is, I don't know, I just really get a kick out of it. So on this page, we're going to fold this guy over, and this is going to create a long pocket. So we will need to cover this page. So this will be theoretically page 5 of our book. Okay, so what I've done is, again, this is one of my tricks to kind of conserve paper. So this is going to be a pocket. We're going to glue it down. What I did was, I'm really trying hard to save my paper, and so I took a piece of paper, I cut a strip for the top part of the pocket, then we're going to glue that down, and then I'm going to put the rest of the image on the other part, so that way it kind of, you still have the whole image of the paper, but it is also a pocket as well. Okay, so this one, I guess technically you don't have to, you know, do ahead of time as far as putting paper behind that pocket. but we'll go ahead and do it so I can show you. But this was a way of saving paper. And then again, because I'm gluing the pockets, I'm not using tabs for the pockets. You don't really need to put paper down in there or do like the tape trick to cover your tabs. And nobody's gonna see in that pocket anyway. So I just took the edge off of the one side and glued that down. And then here is the other side of that paper. And then that's how you could use one piece to actually cover a pocket and then the top of the pocket. So it was a way of kind of conserving paper and trying to use up my scraps and save some paper for my next project, because this is number 2 and I need to do number 3. And again, this is all the same, you know, paper pack. And I will give you all the stuff will be in the description too, obviously, as far as how much paper and the measurements and the cut list and all that stuff. I'll have all that for you. Okay, so then when you turn this page over, then what we're going to have is we're going to have another flap. So we're going to turn this page over. This page is done. You have your pocket here. So we're going to turn this over, and this page here is going to fold up, and it's going to be a flap. This page, or this piece here, is going to fold to the inside, and that's going to be another flap. So you're going to have your page that looks like this, and you don't have to cover this page yet if you don't want to, but it will fold down, and then you'll have another flap here. So you get all these different looks with this page. Okay, that's that page. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is another B page. All right, like so. And this page is going to be a little bit similar, but again, different. It's going to have a different look because the pockets are going to be in different spots. I don't know. I just love this. I hope I'm not confusing you. All right, so on this page, bottom piece folds up, and that is going to glue down and be a big pocket. All right, so we will have to cover, let's see. Yeah, we will have to cover, no, we won't, because I'm doing the same technique. So, sorry about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the top piece there and the piece here, and then just divide it in two to make the top pocket, because it's all going to glue down. All right, and so then we're going to, when we turn the page, this page here is going to have a flap like that, so it will open up like so to give you some more picture opportunity. But then this piece here is going to fold up, and that's going to create another pocket. So we will have that. So let's grab our papers here and make sure my pocket is straight, because it's not looking straight here. Okay, so this one here, because I'm doing the technique where I'm using the two different pieces, we can go ahead and glue the pocket down like so. And again, these pages are 6.5 tall by 4.5 wide. So a thin bead of glue on the sides, and you should be able to do 4x6 pictures in here, no problem. Or 4x6 tags. It should work out just fine. So I'm gonna do that. And again, this was one piece of paper, you know, that I had, that I decided that I was going to utilize to do the pocket, top and bottom, so I could keep the picture. I wanted to keep the continuity of the picture. I love the images in this collection. They are just so stinking cute. All right. So we'll lay that right there, and then you're gonna have a nice little pocket page right here. Okay. So pocket right there. Oop, if I can get my bone folder in there. And then when we turn the page, this is going to be a pocket as well. So what I am intending on doing is, on this one's going to go in the pocket just a little bit, which is fine because, you know, if you want to do that, but you do need to glue this one down first if it's going to go actually in the pocket, which it is. So I just cut, this is just, again, a little scrap left over. And I'm going to open this up so I can see it a little better, because the black is hard on tutorials. I do know that, and I'm sorry about that. But it's Halloween, you have to use black paper, right? All right, so then we're going to glue this pocket up like so. And these little flaps and wing pages are 3 1/4 wide. All right, so there is our little pocket here. And then I'm going to just show you this really quick. This is going to go over the pocket. I used the paper that had the little ghosties in it, and I cut the ghosties out, so it's going to be super cute. So anyway, and so then there's a flap here and then a pocket. All right. Whoops, if I can get my bone folder in there. Okay, so that's how that one's going to work. And let's move on to our last page, which is another A page. And this one's going to be pretty fun. Again, it's all just how you fold it. So this one here, after we do the binding, of course. Okay. So there you go. So you could make all of your pages and then, you know, put them in your book, and then you could go ahead, don't glue anything down as far as like the pockets and stuff like that. Put them in your book, and then you can decide, do you want it a pocket? Do you want it a flap? It's totally up to you. This is just a bunch of ideas, but I got basically 5 different looks from these pages, so it's really kind of cool, I think. I was pretty happy with it. Okay, so on this one's going to fold up, and that one's going to be a pocket. Okay, and then for that pocket, again, I was going to do this for the continuity of the page. Okay, so I can go ahead and glue that if I wanted to. All right, and then this piece here is going to be a flap, so we're just going to fold this to the side, and that'll be a flap. And then this guy here, you guessed it, is going to go over here, and we're going to fold it down, but we're going to do something a little bit different with this. It's going to be a pocket, but it's going to be a little bit different. And I see a little nubbin I got to cut off. Okay, so what we're going to do with this one here is we're going to measure 3 inches from the top of this rectangular piece here, and we're going to, so if we look at the page, this is what we're looking at. This is going to fold up, that's going to go like this, and then you got this flap that's going to go to the back. So from the top here, we're going to measure down 3 inches, and we're going to make a little tick mark here. So I'm going to measure down 1, 2, 3, put a little tick mark here, and then what we're going to do is, you can either do it with a pencil, or you can do it with a, you know, put it in your scoreboard. We're just going to cut that corner completely out and make an angled pocket. Okay, so I just did a very light mark here, and I'm going to cut that off. And then when we turn it over, we're going to glue it at the bottom and create a back pocket. So on the back here, we are definitely going to need to put down our pattern paper first here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. And then you will see when you look through the walkthrough of my project, I really like symmetry. So the papers, I'm trying, as you open the pages, to kind of make everything kind of match. So you'll notice that in the walkthrough. So if it looks a little bit kind of weird right now, it really isn't, because I got some symmetry going on in this. I kind of like that. All right, even though the pages are different, the papers are going to be similar. So once you cover the back, then just put a little bead of glue at the bottom, fold that over, and then that's going to complete your pocket. So to cut this piece here, you're going to need a piece that is 6 3/8 by 1 1/8. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to measure from the top corner down 3 inches, and then you're going to cut up that diagonal, and that should give you the exact piece to put on this paper, or on this pocket. So then you'll have a nice angled wide pocket. So you can see how different all of these pages are going to be. It's going to be really cool. All right, so let's put these in the book. And then basically with the construction of this, we are done. So let me get this out of the way and grab the book. There is one thing I am going to do, and I laid these in order of appearance. So one thing I am going to do is I really would like to cover the inside spine. Now again, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I love this paper, and I had a perfect little scrap of it, and it fit just perfect. So I'm going to go ahead before I put my pages in, and I'm going to add pattern paper to my spine. And I don't always do this, but I want to with this one. I really do. I wish I had a package of this wood paper. I just love this wood paper so much. The color is beautiful. So, Tammy, if you're listening, if you got some wood grain kind of patterns that you wanted to put in a pack, I would like absolutely adore that. Wouldn't that be awesome? Okay, so we've got our book, front cover here. So we make sure we got our pages oriented. As I made my pages, I kept them in the orientation that I wanted them. And what we're gonna do is grab our ruler, and we're gonna grab our pencil again, and I'm gonna measure 1/2 inch from the edge of my chipboard, of my spine, okay? And I'm gonna put a little, sorry about the gray here, or the gray hair, I should say. The gray's pretty on the wood grain, but it's not pretty on my hair. Okay, draw a line, so 1/2 inch in. These are gonna have 1/2 inch gussets. So take your first page, and making sure that we're in the proper orientation, fold that 1/2 inch back, put your glue on. And I would say like 99% of the time, this is how I do my books. And this is how I attach my pages. And I really like the way that it attaches this way. And also, if you're using Artisan cardstock and you're using art glitter glue, you are not going to have any problems with your pages whatsoever, honestly. I have made many, many books, and I have not had any problems with any of them falling apart. I'm just making sure that I got that right. Okay. All right, so first page down, and it'll turn like so, and then grab your second page. Now I'm going to do it this way because then it'll be easier for me to see. Making sure, so my page orientation, there's my tab. Oops. And that's okay, we're gonna cover that up anyway. I just don't want to glue it to anything right now. All right, and then just butt this up against the previous page, okay? So 1/2 inch tab only. Keep the 1/4 inch tab, or the 1/4 inch space clear. All right, so we got that, and then we just keep going. So this will be the third page. And I hope I didn't confuse you with the pages. I'll make that very, very clear in the description too. Okay, so we have the 2 different like ways to score, or excuse me, the 2 different ways to cut our pages. They're all scored the same, but they're 2 different ways to cut. And then like page A, we'll make pages 1 and 2, and 5 and 6, and 9 and 10. Okay, so as I was going through here, you saw that on my notes about like with the pattern papers and stuff, so the fronts and the backs. So, gosh, I'm probably confusing you more. I should probably just be quiet. Okay, last page. So this one here, we're going to flip the tab the opposite direction. Okay, because what we're going to do is lay that over top of the previous tab that we've already placed. Like so. And then that way, that'll be covered and you won't have a tab on this side. So you can see that the front and the back, you'll have this beautiful wood grain showing and you won't have a tab showing. So there's our book. So that's how you put the pages in the book. So then all of it is just a matter of now I just have to put the rest of the pattern paper on. We did put the pattern paper on the ones we had to show you where to do that. Again, you can, you know, this is actually supposed to be under there. You can do these in many different ways. This is just the ways that I came up with, but the first page will have a flap, and then you have this pocket here, and then a pocket here. And then here you have a flap, and then another flap, and then another flap that's a tag shape. Here we have a pocket right here, and then you turn it over and you have a flap, and then another flap that goes out like that. Here we have a pocket, and when you turn that page, you will have a pocket here, and then you'll have another flap. Here we will have a flap, and then a flap, and then we'll turn this over, and then you have a pocket here. So that's kind of the pages of the book. So I hope this tutorial made sense. I hope I didn't confuse you. If you have any questions, comments, anything, please let me know. Again, this particular type of binding that I did for this book, I don't recommend it for giant books. It is great for smaller, like more mini albums, but if you're going to do a larger album, I do not recommend this because it is just basically one piece of artisan cardstock holding the whole thing together. So you don't want it to be too heavy, but it does make a great way to do a binding when you want to have a wraparound cover too. And then you can, of course, cover this any way you wanted to. So I will... yeah, be done for today, and you have seen the walkthrough, so you know how I decorated it. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I will be back soon with another one. Thanks for watching, and again, go to Country Craft Creations at countrycraftcreations.com to get your artisan cardstock, to get your beautiful Bewitching Hour papers that I used in this tutorial, and your art glitter glue and seam binding and everything else you need, magnets, the whole 9 yards. You can get everything there. You're going to love it. So, countrycraftcreations.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.